Good evening, and welcome to Direct Impact Broadcasting, the station of growth and transformation. Affiliate of Creative Broadcasting presents Leadership Tidbits with Coach T. Wilson, with your host, Tawana Wilson, as she welcomes her guest to the studio.
Welcome to Leadership Tidbits with Coach T. Wilson. I am your host, Tawana Wilson. A little bit about myself. I am your award-winning leadership maven, medical laboratory sciences by background, best-selling author, owner and chief leadership coach at Trinity Elite Coaching and Consulting Services, executive director with the John Maxwell team, Maxwell Dish Certified Consultant, Send Out Cards referral partner, and co-owner of Direct Impact Broadcasting radio station. Before we bring on my special guest, I want to highlight our May fundraising initiative in conjunction with the Alzheimer's Association's Longest Day campaign. For those affected by Alzheimer's disease or dementia, we are doing really well. We have just 8 days until the end of the month to reach our goal. So donations can be made at bit.ly/TE Longest Day. And this is in honor of my grandmother, Juanita Hardy, who passed away just last year after a long battle of dementia. I'm also excited to announce the HBCU Experience Kentucky State University edition. We are still looking for co-authors to participate in this movement that is giving back to not only Kentucky State University, but also the other HBCUs that are represented. For more information about being a co-author, sponsor, or partner for this movement, you can send me an email at tywana@trinityelitellc.com. That's TYWAUNA@trinityelitellc.com. I would like to say thank you to my media mentors, Ms. Ashley Luttrell and Ms. Kimberly McLemore of Talk Radio and TV Network LLP. Today's special guest is my friend, Ms. Danielle Jones. Ms. Danielle Jones is a young lady who is fueled by her passion to live life to the fullest. She graduated Summa Cum Laude from Florida A&M University with a degree in public relations, and she earned her master's degree in business administration from the University of Cincinnati. As assistant vice president and senior public relations manager at Fifth Third Bank, Ms. Jones provides strategic corporate communications support and corporate communications plans for areas of the bank, including, but not limited to, corporate social responsibility, community and economic development, diversity and inclusion, the historically black colleges and universities, human capital recruitment team, the Fifth Third Bank Foundation, and the Community Development Corporation. Ms. Jones is very involved in the community, and she enjoys giving back. She has served as a mentor for high school girls and college students, a Girl Scout troop leader, a tutor for elementary students, and in leadership roles with the African American Professional Advisory Council at Cincinnati Children's Hospital Medical Center. In 2018, she co-founded the Greater Cincinnati Black PR Professionals as a way to connect and provide resources for African American public relations specialists. She has been recognized with many honors, including but not limited to Cincinnati's 20 Leaders Under 30, Venue Magazine's 30 Under 30, a 2016 Business Courier 40 Under 40 leader, a YWCA Rising Star, the Cincinnati chapter of the Public Relations Society of America's Rookie of the Year, Cincinnati Children's Martin Luther King Jr. Humanitarian of the Year, and a TEDx Extraordinary Woman. In 2015, after the death of her infant son, she started the Angel Baby Network as a way to help families cope with the devastating effects of child loss. She has served on the Starshine Hospice Board, which focuses on assisting families whose children have terminal medical diagnoses and life-limiting illnesses. And she serves on the advisory board for Cradle Cincinnati, which works to reduce infant mortality. Ms. Jones enjoys spending time with her family and her friends. Her favorite thing to do is laugh, and her second favorite thing to do is smile. She is passionate about living on purpose and seeks and enacts on ways to help others be their best. She believes that every day is a gift from God and that no matter what, there's a lesson to be learned through all of life experiences. Hello, Miss Danielle Jones. How are you doing this evening?
I'm good. How are you, Miss Tawana?
I am doing wonderful. No complaints. Happy to talk with you this evening.
I'm happy to talk with you, too. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. So let's jump right in. Please tell the listeners about your leadership journey and how did you get to where you are today?
Sure. So I think that my leadership journey probably has been one in the making since I was little. Starting off from when I was a young child, my parents put me and my brother in different classes where we could learn about different types of things and where we would be really just exposed to varying ways of life. My high school is one of the most diverse schools that probably exists. It's kind of like a microcosm of the United States of America. So I had an opportunity to be exposed to all different types of people, and I think that that's a part of what leadership is about. It's about really opening up your mind and really taking in varying perspectives and then figuring out how to make something great of all of the different perspectives. And so going off to college, I was involved in a lot of different activities, took on different leadership roles in that. One of my favorite leadership roles when I was in college was I was the president of the Public Relations Student Society of America, where I was able to lead a team of students, and we had a lot of really great successes. And then after graduating, I went on to work at the Muscular Dystrophy Association as the Regional Public Affairs Coordinator, which was a really cool job coming right out of college. And in that position, I was able to do public relations and media relations for Cincinnati, Dayton, Lexington, and Louisville. So that was really, really cool. And then from there, I went and worked at Cincinnati Children's for 11 and a half years, and now I'm at Fifth Third Bank. And so my leadership journey has been one that's kind of been an upward trajectory, but outside of my more professional roles, I've also had an opportunity to take a leadership position in the community, doing some of the many community service activities that I've been involved in. So whether it's Girl Scouts or being a mentor or my role with the Greater Cincinnati Black PR Pros, that's really a snippet of my leadership journey.
Wow, you've done quite a bit.
Yeah, I like to stay busy.
Well, that's a good thing. Wow. So, Danny, as we know, leaders come from all different backgrounds, different strengths, different experience. What strengths do you feel are important to thrive as a leader and create your seat at the table?
Sure. So I think there's a lot of different things that are important to have as a leader, and one of them I've already touched on, but I cannot say it enough. It's really having that vested interest in people. You don't get to be a leader and not care about people along the way. A leader is someone who gives back, they help out, they coach, they offer constructive criticism. They also are able to take feedback and apply it to whatever they're doing. When you get to the position of being in a leadership role and all you're doing is telling everyone else what to do around you and you're not setting a good example, you're a dictator. Those are two totally different things. And so I believe that having a truly vested interest in people is something that you have to have in order to thrive as a leader. But I think there's also other things like having confidence in yourself, confidence in your decisions, but at the same time being willing to listen to other people. So those listening skills really come into play. making sure that you are leading by example and that you're not just telling everyone else to do. You have to make sure that you are really taking in what matters most and what's going to be for the greater good of the whole, not just what you think is best. And also making sure that you are opening up yourself to varying perspectives and ideas and ways of leading too. What may work for one group of people may not be what works for another people or for another group of people. And I think that you need to learn how to be agile and you need to learn how to pivot when necessary.
That's great advice. Great advice. Working with our young people, and you're out in the community working with our young people, it's important for them to know that leaders come from all different backgrounds and they look different, have different experiences. So a lot of the feedback and tidbits that you're giving is exactly what they need to hear. And as I've had leaders from all different industries on here, they are saying some of these exact same things. Best interest in people, listening skills. Listen, young people out there in our listening audience. Leading by example. So those are all good things and valuable things that are very beneficial. And so I'm sure you're at the table, at a lot of diverse tables, being in PR. So how did you and you've done a lot of things and got a lot of awards, especially being under leader under 20, leader under 30, leader under 40. So how did you create your seat and being taken seriously when sometimes the other leaders at the table may be very diverse from yourself in various ways?
Sure. So I think it goes back into those same things about what it takes to be a leader. So having that confidence, and that's something that we'll talk about more later because I've not always had that confidence. So definitely having confidence, definitely listening to people and really listening for what they're saying and not just listening to respond, but taking in what they're saying and then figuring out how to apply it. I remember hearing from a pastor many, many years ago that, the evidence of you actually learning something is when you actually apply what you've learned. And the only way that you're able to apply what you've learned is if you've listened and then you go out and you actually try it. And so I think that those are two things that have also helped me, but also familiarizing myself with whatever information is being presented when I'm being asked to sit at those tables and actually bringing meaningful, thoughtful conversation and dialogue and really taking an interest in whatever it is that's being said and figuring out what are the right questions that I need to ask, but also knowing that there are no quote-unquote dumb questions, not being afraid to ask those questions and not being afraid to ask for help also. And then a big one for me is not putting pressure on myself. I think that sometimes as a leader, I can't speak for everyone else. I can only speak for myself, but I've put so much pressure on myself to either get something right or to not make a mistake or to be quote unquote perfect when perfection is really just an idea. It's not something that I think you ever actually truly achieve, but putting all of that pressure on myself for no reason. And, when you put pressure on yourself, you end up stressed out more oftentimes than not. So reminding myself of that constantly has been extremely helpful for me.
That is great information. You're right. As leaders, we do tend to put a lot of pressure on ourselves that's not always necessary. So that's great information. I'm sure that with all of your success, there has been some learning lessons along the way. It's especially important for the next generation of leaders to not only hear about our successes, but to also hear about our failures. Because as you know, as we have our bios and our one sheets and media sheets, they all talk about what? All of the good things, all of the successes, but not the trials. So can you share with the listeners one of your failures and the learning lesson that you gained from it?
Sure. I'll share a few different things, actually. So, again, and this isn't so much as much of a failure. I'll share a combination of failures and lessons. So it's not so much, thank you. It's not so much of a failure as much as it is just a lesson. And so I was one of those people who graduated right out of college, and I'm going to be the president, right? Like, I'm just going to take it straight to the top and bypass everything else. It's like, well, we need to go through all of these, lessons and life journeys and da-da-da-da. I'm just going to be the president. But at the end of the day, would you really want that? I sat on a panel yesterday of millennial leaders. I am in the millennial age range. I'm an older millennial, but I'm in the millennial age range. And one of the examples that I shared was actually from another pastor. Many years ago, she shared a story of how if you imagine going to a barbecue and the music is going and everything is good and, you have somebody over in the corner and they're putting food on the grill and, and you thinking that everything is going to be great, and they plop a piece of raw chicken down in front of you. And you sit there and you look at it. And I'm a pescatarian, so I don't really eat chicken anymore, but I know chicken is good, right? But you sit there and you look at this raw piece of chicken in front of you, and nobody wants to eat that because raw chicken will kill you. And it's a matter of understanding that there's timing in everything, and that in good time and in due season, and when you've been prepared and when you've been ready, that door is going to open up for you. And it took me so long to actually learn that and let that settle in. I think it's just now really starting to hit me that in due time, in due season, I will be prepared to take on whatever role is next for me or whatever next I'm supposed to be doing. I think for me as a young leader, and which can also be a blessing and a curse for a young leader, because you get all of the accolades and you do what you're supposed to do and you get recognized and you think, okay, I'm just going to shoot straight to the top. Not always understanding that there is still preparation that yet must be done before you get to the proverbial top. And unless you go through all of the journeys and the pitfalls and the ups and the downs, when you get there, you're not going to be prepared. So for me, one of those lessons, not so much a failure, just a life lesson, is that all things happen when they're supposed to. And calm down and slow down and go sit down somewhere and take a chill pill and learn everything you're supposed to learn. Now, the second part of that is I can remember when I was at one of my employers and I kind of started getting the itch to leave. You kind of know when you're ready to walk away. I kind of started getting that itch to leave, and I started applying at different jobs, and I had made it through to the second or third round of interviews, and then I started talking with people who worked at the company, and I started finding out about how the company was actually run and how it was managed, and the company was out of town, and I had to also consider me picking my family up and moving out of town, and what would that mean? And I wouldn't be around my family, which is such a tremendous support system for me. I would be out here, by myself and starting all over in a new place. And I decided to remove myself from the interviewing process. And I knew that as much as I wanted to leave where I was, that the right thing for me to do was to remove myself. That's another lesson, following your gut. You'll know what you're supposed to do if you sit down and you really listen to that inner self or the God in you. You'll know. And so for me, I removed myself from the process, and within a matter of months, my whole world was turned upside down by just a series of personal events that happened. Had I moved because I was trying to move out of timing and ended up in another city away from my family, away from my friends, away from my support system, I don't know what would have happened. And so, that timing piece is huge, and I always share that with people. Another lesson that I learned, and I guess this would kind of count as a failure, another lesson that I've had to learn through the years is being honest with myself and saying no, even when the opportunity looks really good, and really not feeling the need to necessarily explain myself to anyone, but also knowing what my limits are. So an example of that is about 2 years ago, there was this financial planner in town, and he had offered me the role of editing a newsletter for him and doing this newsletter for him. And I wanted to impress him, and I wanted to do a really good job. And I can write, so that wasn't an issue. But I didn't have the time to do it, and I didn't have the time to do it well. But because I was trying to impress him, I went on ahead and took on the role anyway, and I did a horrible job. Just horrible. And he called me out on it and was like, what the bleepy bleep is this? And he's like, you're supposed to be this, you read my bio, so I'm supposed to be this award-winning something other, and I'm giving him something that just was not good. And there were so many lessons that I learned even in that situation because I didn't take the time that I needed to call him and to ask him certain questions. I didn't take the time that I needed to really research what he was all about. I didn't take the time to do what I, to get a better understanding of him of what it was that he wanted me to do. And in addition to that, I just didn't have time to do it. And I should have told him no instead of mucking it up and making it something that it could have been so much better, or somebody else could have done it. So, knowing when to say no is a very important lesson. And then finally, that whole putting pressure on myself. I tell the story about how when I started in my current role, I was coming to work and I'm wearing these heels and I'm walking all around, and I like to wear heels, but when you walk in the distances that I was walking, that's just not practical. And so, I'm trying to wear these fancy shoes and I'm putting on a full face of makeup. I don't hardly ever wear a full face of makeup, and then I'm wiping on my face and my little caramel makeup is ending up on the white tables at work. And it's like, just be yourself. I'm looking behind. You can tell every place I sat because you can see my little caramel makeup hands fingerprints. And it's like, if you don't sit down somewhere and just be you. So, it's a matter of, but that all takes time, right? And I think that sometimes we get fooled into believing that we're going to wake up and just know everything. And nobody wakes up and knows everything. You have to go through some stuff in order for you to get these types of lessons, and then you turn around and you help other people with them. So, yeah, those are some of the, the failures and the lessons that I've learned along the way.
Those are powerful. You are dropping all kind of nuggets on here tonight. You are right. Being honest with yourself. Yes, ma'am. Yes, because sometimes you are right. Sometimes, especially being a millennial leader, sometimes you are at an illusion with your skills sometimes for some of these opportunities. Well,
or like one of my friends, God bless her heart, she said to me, and we were talking about something different. We were talking about a situation that she was in, but she said, yeah, so this person has an unrealistic relationship with reality. And I just bust out laughing, but it's so true. It's like, don't have an unrealistic relationship with reality. Like, you need to be honest with yourself. And really, the piece about really just knowing yourself, that's a part of authenticity. And what I've learned, again, I can only speak for me, what I've learned is that people are so grateful for folks who are real and who are authentic and who are transparent, because you don't learn anything from anybody when you sit back and you think that every day is roses and sunshine. That's a lie. It's just a lie.
Right.
It's not honest. Even with the creation, me and my girlfriends who got together, we created the Greater Cincinnati Black PR Pros. Even in that, we had to be honest with ourselves. A lot of affinity organizations and business-related organizations, they meet, every month, or they meet every other week, or they have conference calls, and they have, lunch meetings, and they do this and they do that. Our group meets 4 times a year. Okay, that's it. 4 times. We meet once a quarter. And the reason why is because all of us are too busy to meet once a month. And we are not going to put on a facade and scramble trying to make that happen for anybody else. You have to be honest with yourself.
You do. I was just looking at the commencement from my beloved alma mater, Kentucky State University.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And my sorority sister, Dr. Gwendolyn Boyd, she was the keynote speaker. And what she told the graduating class of 2019 is, all you have is your good name. So that means as you go out and embark on this thing called life, on this thing called work, on this thing called leadership, be honest. You know, what you have and what you stand on is your name. If you can't do it, you don't act like you can. If you know those skills are not what you have, don't act like you got them.
Right, and I say that all the time. I have people laughing at me, but I be so honest because, you know, I tell people all the time, I know that I am really good at communications and public relations, media relations, community relations. That is my niche. That is where I live. That's where I work. That's where I play. That is where I thrive. You don't want me doing brain surgery on you. You will surely die. Call your mama and them and have them set up the funeral gun now. Because I'm not who you want opening up your head, doing anything with your nerves, your amygdala, whatever, like your cerebellum. Baby, listen, you will die. I can almost guarantee you. And I'm not about to put on a surgeon's, scrubs and have a scalpel in my hand and make you think anything different, because you will die. And so that's the reality of it. You have to be very honest with yourself. But I think that sometimes that, putting on that front or acting like you can do other things when you know you can't, it comes from that place within of either insecurity or jealousy, or you don't think that there's enough success for everyone out here. And there have been experiences that I've had, not necessarily with work, not professional in the corporate sense, but I was a part of a network marketing company. And you can say whatever you want to say about network marketing companies. I know that some people love them. I know that some people hate them. I know that some people have, crazy thoughts about them, whatever, what right way, wrong way, or indifferent. You think whatever you think about them. But I truly believe that at some point everyone should do at least one network marketing company, not a pyramid scheme, but a true network marketing company. So whether it's a Avon or World Ventures or Mary Kay or something along those lines. And the reason why is because you learn so much about yourself. I remember being in the network marketing company that I was a part of, and I truly loved it. And I'm no longer a part of the company, but loved the company, loved everything that we were doing in it. But I was looking at other people around me who were younger than me, who hadn't been with the company as long as me, who were achieving great strides and great success, and they were earning, whatever that next rank was, and they were earning money, and they were being named a top leader and a top this and a top that. And it would bother me because I was thinking to myself, well, I'm doing everything I can, and it's not working out for me. But everything's not meant for everybody. And that is another lesson that all of us have to learn. And there's success for everyone in your right lane. So, again, I got a little successful with what I was doing. And like I said, I enjoyed it and I really liked it. And then life circumstances, it was time for me to step from that part of my life. But one of the lessons that I learned from that was that everything's not necessarily for everybody. And so even in that vein, you can't look at someone else and judge them for what they're doing or for what they're not doing. It's very easy to look over and say, well, I can't believe that they're doing X, Y, and Z. Well, maybe that's not meant for you, but maybe that's where they thrive, and leave them alone and let them do whatever they're doing. I think that's another lesson that I've learned along the way.
That's very valuable information. We all have our gifts. If we were all the same, imagine what this world would be like.
Exactly.
I mean, it's the same thing at the table. If everybody was the same and brought the same ideas, the same gifts, imagine how far a company would go. So that's awesome. That you put yourself in different situations so that you could be challenged, and learn that, this is for me, or no, this isn't for me.
Right, and be honest with yourself. It's so important that you're honest with yourself about that.
I agree, absolutely.
Yeah.
What part, if any, has having a senior leader as a mentor or informal sponsors played on the progression of your career?
So I am a firm believer that, mentors aren't only at work. I think that you get to have mentors and sponsors in all different areas of your life. When my mom taught me when I was very young that you have different friends for different things. So this might be your group of friends that you go shopping with. This might be the group of friends that you go to the concert with. This might be the group of friends that you go to church with. You have different friends for different things because, again, everyone's not the same. And so for me, I've had different mentors for different things. I've had those spiritual mentors who have pulled me to the side and who've told me, I will pray for you. I will keep you covered. You got this. Like, let me remind you of what the Word of God says. Let me remind you of the child of God who you are. And I've needed them. I've also had people at work who've pulled me aside and they said, hey, this is something that you need to take care of. Or, hey, have you considered this? Sometimes my mentors have been the people who have pushed me into that next level. I've also had those sponsors. The difference between a mentor and a sponsor is a mentor is someone who can coach you, they can advise you, they can be that listening ear for you. A sponsor is someone who can go into the rooms that you can't go in, and they can speak on your behalf. And maybe they've never worked on a project directly with you, but they know your character, and they know your reputation, and they are willing to go to bat for you. And so it's important to have mentors and sponsors, at least in my life. I remember when I worked at my former employer, and my boss was one of the very first people who I shared with that I had been approached by another company. And I talked with him through it. And even though he didn't necessarily want me to leave where I was, he was over the moon excited to push me where he knew I was supposed to go. And I think that that's so powerful to have people in your life like that who can say, man, this is such a bittersweet time for me. Maybe you've been providing a service for them, or maybe you've been the best employee they've ever had, or maybe you've been the best boss they've ever had. It takes a really strong person to look and say, hey, I see everything that you've done. You're stellar at what you're doing, but at this point, this chapter here is up. It's time for you to go and be the great person that you're called to be. And a true mentor is able to coach you along that journey. Having female leaders who have been able to pull me to the side and tell me something that's important and maybe a male leader wouldn't be comfortable with telling me has been extremely important and invaluable, all of the days of my career. I remember being all the way back in college, and we had an advisor, Ms. Hall, and Ms. Hall pulled me aside and said, hey, when you're sitting in front of a room full of people, you need to put on a suit jacket. Or, little tidbits like that made a big difference for me. Hey, when you go into an interview, this is what you need to wear. Hey, when you are sitting in a business meeting, this is what you need to do, or this is what you don't need to do. All of those things have been really, really important to me.
Awesome. Do you find you have more mentors being men, women, or about the same?
I would say probably women just by default. And, we have all of these different opportunities for women to go and learn from other women if a woman is willing to actually go and learn. So I'm a member of, or I've attended several Black Career Women networking events. I was at the All About Women's conference yesterday. I've been to a variety of different female-oriented events and panels and all of that. But at work, I've had male mentors in addition to the female mentors, and that's been just as important. I have a male mentor right now who's kind of like a big brother to me. He works in business banking, and so he and I get together every so often. We talk about life, and we talk about what's actually taking place at our workplace. The gentleman that I mentioned to you before, my former employer, who is still a mentor to me, even though I've been gone now from the organization for the last 2 years, and he's been gone too. 18 months, he's still a mentor to me. So by default, I've definitely had more women mentors, and honestly, I feel more comfortable because I feel like with a female, I can go in depth about some personal things also in addition to the professional stuff. But I've also had male mentors who've been extremely helpful to me. I think that you need a mix of both. I think that you also need a mix of mentors and sponsors who are different races. I hate to say it, but there are still some rooms, and all of us know this to be true. The data proves it. There are still some rooms, there are still some seats at the table where white men still can go that we cannot necessarily go. And as awful as that sounds, it is the truth. You can look it up. You can research it. You can pull the data. You can Google it. That is the truth. That's the world that we live in. And so I think that it is important to still have a white male mentor. I have a white male mentor. I have a couple of white male mentors who've been truly influential along the way. And because they can still get in the rooms that we cannot get into, they can coach me and they can help tell me what I need to do when I go into those rooms that maybe I would not have known before. But just as it has been important for me to have those white male mentors, it has also been extremely important for me to have my black female mentors too, who can be honest with me and tell me the truth and all of that also.
I absolutely agree. I agree that you should have various mentors, various backgrounds. I absolutely agree. That's great information that you shared. So I often get the question, where do I find leadership experience, or how do I build my leadership toolbox? What advice would you give to an emerging leader, or even one that's looking to reinvent themselves for finding leadership opportunities, whether it's inside or outside of the workplace?
Sure. So I think that it starts within yourself. It starts with you having the desire to go and seek out what it is that you truly want. For me, I've learned through the years that I'm a sponge. So I am going to absorb as much knowledge, as much information as I possibly can from good people, good resources. Again, everything is not for everybody. Everyone's learning or teaching style is not necessarily for everyone. So for me, it's been a matter of attending the seminars. It's been a matter of me getting aligned with Black Career Women's Network and actually networking and staying in touch with the women that I meet through those events. It's been a matter of me reading articles and listening to audio books and reading books, and even having informal lunches and dinners and breakfasts. And my mom had me cracking up the other day because she knows that I'm working on something that's pretty big in my life. And she said, now every time I call you, you're eating pancakes and sushi with somebody. So she was like, you need to be handling your business. And it was so funny because she'll call me and it's like, what are you doing? Oh, I'm at such and such restaurant with my girlfriend such and such, and we talking about work. Or, you know, she'll call me another time and what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, I'm out with such and such girlfriend, and we talking about how we gonna put together this organization, and we speaking at a conference. So but in those you know, those pancake breakfasts and sushi lunches and sushi dinners, you know, I'm gaining insight and information from the girlfriends and from the mentors and from the people that I'm surrounded by. And sometimes it doesn't have to be a formal conference where you sit down and learn a lot of information from people. I'm a big believer in connections, and I'm a big believer in relationship building. And sometimes your best lessons can come over a cup of coffee or over a salad. and, you know, you're sitting there and you're being honest with someone else and they're being honest with you, sometimes that's where those leadership tools come from for your toolbox. But again, it starts out with you being honest about what it is that you want to do and where it is you want to go, and then you seeking what information is applicable to where you're trying to go, but also you figuring out how to digest it in what way matters most to you. So for me, I've been sharing this example since the end of last year. I got Michelle Obama's book when it first came out, and I was so excited. I got her book. I was the second person in the bookstore that morning to pick her book up, so I was super happy and super excited. And the book is like 421 pages long. And as much as I love to read, I don't, because I don't make the time. I shouldn't say I don't have the time. I don't always make the time to do it. I remember being on a flight probably 3 weeks after I got the book, and I was sitting next to a man, and I happened to glance over. I mean, it's kind of inevitable. Everyone does it. I glanced over, and I saw that he was listening to the book. And by this point, I was probably close to being about 200 pages in, but I was going to a book club for it that was happening like the following weekend. And at this point, I just didn't have a ton of input because I hadn't finished reading the book, and I had to be honest with myself. And it was like, Danny, okay, think about it. Why don't you just get the audiobook and listen to the audiobook? You will listen to it so much faster. And I was able to finish the book faster because I was able to take in the information the way that it mattered to me most and the way I could understand it. And so, again, it goes back to knowing yourself and figuring out what works best for you. There are some people who don't like going to seminars, or who maybe because of the kids or the husband or the whatever extracurricular activities they're involved in, they can't carve out time to attend the all-day conference. But they can hop online and listen to a podcast. They can listen to your radio show, you know. And so I think it's a matter of you figuring out how to take that information in so that you can grow your toolbox in whatever way is best for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're right. That's, you know, online education, podcasts, radio shows are becoming more and more popular because that's what people are doing. You have limited time. You're in the car. It's like, listen, I need to get the information in the tidbits you got, and I need to get them fast.
Right.
Her audiobook, Michelle Obama's audiobook.
Yeah.
Great choice.
Yes.
Great choice. I actually have a hard copy myself. Have not turned not a one page. Yeah. But I got to but I got through that audiobook, and because she read it, I was like, all right, girl, you got to go, girl.
Yeah, I mean, it's like they're reading to you, right? So, yes, I was the same way.
Awesome. It's interesting that, you know, you said you talked about networking and, you know, being able to meet with people for breakfast or lunch or dinner or whatever the case may be. And so what kind of tips do you have for people that are networking? Because what I find is we use that word a lot, but what I'm finding is that people really don't know how to network. For example, if you ask to be connected with somebody, don't expect for that person, you know, that you wanted to be connected with to reach out to you after the connection is made. So it's those simple things that we talk about networking and those kind of things, but some people really don't know how to network.
I think that, again, I'm gonna stick with my theme. You know, it's been working for the last, how long, 30 minutes, 30 or 40 minutes. I'm going to stick with my theme. It's all about doing what works best for you. And so for me, I remember there was an award that I was getting back at the end of last year, and they said, tell us something that most people would be surprised to learn about you. And one of the things that I said was that I hate happy hours. And it's like, well, who don't like happy hour? Well, for one, I'm not the biggest drinker. So I'm not, you know, I'm the person that might, depending on the day, I might go to the bar and ask for a Sprite. with a little red syrup. Like I'm not the biggest drinker. I have my days, but I'm not the biggest drinker. So going and just standing around and talking to people about the husband, the dog, the cats, and the kids isn't always what intrigues me. What intrigues me is when I can sit down across from someone over a cup of coffee or over lunch, and I really get to know them, and I find out how I can help them and how I can invest in them, and vice versa. And so for me, networking has been really expanding my net and making sure that it has worked for me, as well as me working for other people. So making sure that when I quote unquote network, that I'm making that connection, I find things that are common threads between me and the other person, and then I build off of that. I think with social media, again, it could be a blessing or a curse. It could be easier to network because, you may not always be able to pick up the phone and talk to someone. I mean, you even look at me and you, we're friends. We would go to lunch, and everything when we worked at the same place, but we probably have not physically talked to each other in years. But we stay in touch with each other because we're cheering each other on from the sidelines. Like, oh, my God, Taiwan is doing da-da-da-da-da. I'm so proud of her. You go, girl, da-da-da-da. And vice versa. And I think that helps you stay in touch with people too, but don't let social media become a crutch either. Like, still make the lunch date, still make the coffee date, still reach out through email and just say, hey, I was thinking about you. Shoot a text message. I wanted to know how you were doing. But I think it starts off with you really caring about what someone else has going on and figuring out how you can help them, and then building your net that way.
Excellent information. Excellent. Listener audience, Danny just gave y'all a $1 million tidbit right there. So hopefully you caught it.
Thank you.
So, Danny, I know that you've had a rough patch, a rough, difficult time in your life. And so in 2015, you actually started the Angel Baby Network, an organization that helps families cope with the devastating effects of child loss. So can you share with the listening audience more information about your organization?
Sure. So Angel Baby Network was started 4 months after the death of my son. He passed away in July of 2015. And in October, I sat back and I was talking with another girlfriend of mine who had also lost a child. And I said, well, I want to do something for families that will be helpful to them. And she said, let's do it. And that's another, leadership tip. Excuse me. I'm one of those people, I have all of these grandiose ideas, and sometimes I just need someone to push me and say, let's go with it. And she was the person that pushed me and said, let's go with it. And so started it in October. It officially launched in December of that same year. Again, knowing yourself, so we only meet once every other month instead of every other month. And we're really just a resource that helps families across the tri-state area to bring them together after they've lost a child. Child loss is something that is devastating. It is earth-shattering. It is life-changing. And so to be able to connect with other families who've also experienced that same loss is powerful. And so we get together, we do fun activities, we cry, we laugh, we smile, we stay in touch with each other. And it's something that we all depend on and we get a lot of help from. I know it's been something that's been truly valuable in my healing process, and I know that it's been valuable to a lot of other people also.
That is awesome. Can I just say I just love you, Danny?
I love you too,
what you are doing and the families that you're impacting, that's just really been a blessing. So watching your journey, like you said, we don't necessarily talk every day, but watching your journey and watching the people that you touch and watching the lives that are changed is just really awesome and really powerful. So thank you for all that you do. And for being a resource for people to be able to, so they're not holding it in. That's kind of one thing that I've talked to different people, and they just, people need an outlet to be able to talk. Yeah. So you are definitely walking the walk and talking the talk and being a blessing to those around you. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you were doing it. You were definitely walking into your gift and doing what you were called to do. So that is amazing. Of course, I could talk to you all night all day, and we can go on and on. But
Likewise.
our time tonight is coming to a close. But before we do, what tidbits of wisdom can you leave our listeners with that they can use in their personal and professional lives?
Absolutely. So, again, that big piece about just doing what is best for you, not being afraid to step out on faith and make the decisions that are best for you in the situations that you're in, being a good listener, getting those mentors, getting those sponsors, people who can say good things about you on your behalf, and then also investing in yourself. There are some great books that are out there. I'm currently listening to Dare to Lead by Brené Brown. One of the really good books that I listened to earlier this year was a book called You Are a Badass by Jennifer Sincero, because sometimes we know that we are, but we need reminders that we are. And so that was an excellent book for me. I also finished Crushing by T.D. Jakes, which is a book that talks about how even though you may be going through really, really hard times, it's not the end. It's just a comma. It's not a period. There's something beautiful that's coming after that crushing. I'm also reading a book right now called It's Not Supposed to Be This Way that talks about what happens and how to face life's challenges when really bad things happen. But really just taking in whatever information you can that's going to help develop you as a leader, and then surrounding yourself with people who are going to pour back into you and who are going to build you up and remind you of who you are all really important things. And when you get a seat at the table, to use it wisely, listen and then give meaningful and honest and candid feedback, and ask really good questions.
Awesome. So how can our listeners stay connected with you and support you in your efforts?
Sure. So I'm on LinkedIn. I'm also on Facebook. People can email me. My email address is onlyoneDanielleJones@yahoo.com. I'm out there. People can find me. People can look up Angel Baby Network on Facebook. We're just under Angel Baby Network. You can email us at angelbabynetwork@gmail.com, but I would prefer for people to find us on Facebook because I'll be honest, we don't always check that email address. But you can find us on Facebook also, and Tawana knows how to find me too. So but LinkedIn is a good way to find me. I'm on LinkedIn. So send me messages. I respond to all of my LinkedIn messages. So send me a message on LinkedIn and we can definitely talk and connect.
Awesome. So thank you so much, Ms. Danielle Jones, for taking the time out of your busy schedule to give me the opportunity to interview you tonight. It was definitely an honor and a pleasure catching up with an old friend.
Yeah, thank you so much, and thank you for what you're doing to help educate us all and really bring those leadership tools home, and for giving us another tool to put in our toolbox. So thank you, and kudos to you too, Ms. Wilson.
Oh, you're so sweet. So many blessings and continued success to you on your journey, and I know I will continue to see your name in lights as I have already seen it.
Thank you. Likewise. You have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. So thank you, listener audience, for tuning in to tonight's show with our special guest, Ms. Danielle Jones, where she shared with us in due time, in due season, and there is still preparation season for you to go through. You will get what you are due to get. Invest in yourself. Do what is best for you. You need to get those mentors, get those sponsors. Surround yourself with people who support you. When you do get a seat at the table, make sure you use it wisely. You got to have confidence in yourself and be honest with yourself, too, in your skills and in your abilities. Listening to what people have to say and not just listening to respond. Have a vested interest in people. Set good examples. Don't be afraid to ask for help. And you know it's important to connect and build relationships. So if you are interested in being a guest on this show, starting your own radio show or low-cost advertising, highlighting your business or events, please email us at dibroadcasting, that's DIBROADCASTING @TrendyEliteLLC, all one word, .com. Please tune in next week to hear from another amazing leader. And until then, my friends, have a good evening.
Thank you, friends, for tuning in to another episode of Leadership Tidbits with Coach T. Wilson, where Taiwana speaks with leaders who share nuggets of wisdom that you can use in your personal and professional life. Follow her on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Coach T. Wilson. Connect on LinkedIn or visit www.coachtwilson.com. And remember, in life, learn as much as you can, appreciate often, and lead fearlessly.